Hello, folks. This is Dr. Nathan Street with Carolina Conservatives, Preachers with a Punch. I'm so glad to be joining with you again today. And I thought that, Alan and I had talked about this, Pastor Mashburn and I talked about this, and we thought that we would drop some shorts, what we're calling shorts, and some short recordings that we would be discussing individually. Of course, you're going to get more of the Preachers with a Punch together. But thought that this would be a good idea to just give you some insight into some things that are happening that we have a little bit of insight on individually. And so I wanted to begin this series with you all, and this is going to be just a series of shorts where I'm going to be discussing with you a very pertinent topic now, especially nowadays. You've been noticing how schools, how universities, how public schools have been really inculcating our children with these leftist ideologies. They've really been focusing on LGBT and transgender and gender pronouns and sexualizing children at an early age with these pornographic books. You can go back and you can read, you can listen and watch a lot of our podcasts from before where we literally read these books to you and just how vile that these books truly are. But have you ever stopped to wonder, how did we get to this point? How did this all come to be? And folks, let me just tell you something. It is not something that is just a modern phenomenon. Yes, it is more overt today than it ever has been. It seems like the radicals that we call teachers in a lot of instances, or radicals that we have as administrators, as college professors, have really infiltrated our school systems, our university systems, and they have. But it seems like that this has now just blown up all of a sudden. Well, folks, let me just tell you something, that we are behind the eight ball when it comes to this. This has been happening for a long time. Now, a little bit about myself is that I have been a school administrator, a school district administrator for 15 years. I've been in public education for 21 years. I've been in education for 26 years. I've been in ministry for 26 years. I am now a college professor myself at Southern Wesleyan University full-time, and then part-time also at Liberty University, two very great bastions of conservative Christian ideology that you would not need to worry about sending your children to either one of those organizations, because we will indoctrinate them, but with American values, with Christian morality, and that is exactly what we will be. What we inculcate children with, and our young adults when it comes to that, when it comes to education. But this series I am going to dedicate to exposing how the left has destroyed public education and how they are after your children, how they are intent on destroying the very foundations of this country by tearing down families, and by bringing in your children to their leftist ideologies. It is a dangerous and it is a deceitful and a diabolical game that they are playing. And folks, they've been playing it for a long time, and we're just now waking up to it. COVID really caused a lot of parents to wake up to this issue when they were seeing teachers talking about how white supremacy was ruling our schools and that white children needed to apologize to black children for being white, or that black children needed to think of themselves as being victimized because of the color of their skin, or when they were seeing that teachers were talking about gender and sexual issues over the computer with students while they were at home. Folks, this is when this all really started to come to light. But let me tell you something. This has been an issue that has been under the radar in our schools for a long, long time, particularly in our university systems, where this has just really hatched and has really grown in the university systems. The universities have been incubators of this leftist, Marxist, communist, highly secularized, highly socialized conglomeration of ideologies, all really perpetrated and indoctrinated into our 18 to 22-year-olds. And then the purpose has been, for the longest time, and has been happening, to send out those indoctrinated, those radicalized teachers particularly into the K-12 schools to continue to radicalize children from the moment that they come into the schools. And folks, make no mistake about it, children are being radicalized at the pre-K level, all the way up through 12th grade and into higher education. But the question that we will be dealing with here in this series that I am calling How the Left Destroyed Public Education and How They Are Out to Destroy Your Children. In this series, we're going to really break down where we came from. How did this get started? Where is the origins of this? Why is public education, and it's really not so much public education as it is public schooling. We will draw a dichotomy between those two. There is a juxtaposition that happens there that we really need to ensure that everyone understands the difference between public education and public schooling. So we need to understand where this actually come from. What's the genesis of where this radicalization of public education and how education started eroding and coming up to where we are today, where children by and large do not know how to read, they don't know how to write, they do not know how to speak, they don't even know how to do simple math problems. But yet we pour more and more money into the schools in an effort to supposedly raise these test scores. Well, we need to understand a few things about test scores, and we need to understand a few things about standards, and we need to understand the ins and outs, the making of a classroom in today's society and where that came from, and the diabolical origins that has really surrounds that. People like John Dewey and his progressivism. That is really where progressivism got started from the 1920s, Woodrow Wilson, and how that ideology became embedded into schools, and how this has been a 100-year march to get our schools to the point to where they are today. And let me make you very clear about this. Let's make no mistake about it, that the ultimate goal is to inculcate your children with the ideals of socialism so that students, when they become adults, are perfectly fine with socialism, to where the government is in control of everything and freedom is no more. The ultimate goal is to take away the freedoms of the United States, and the only way to do that is to capture the hearts and minds of the next generation, because they look at my generation, they look at older generations from me, from the baby boomers down to the generation X, that whole generation, they look at them as lost causes. For the most part now, the baby boomers really got hit with this whole hippie generation, and the radicalization really began there, which is why colleges and universities were radicalized as they were. But then on down from that, even the Generation X and the millennials have been radicalized even more so. But it is this current generation that the left sees as their ultimate ticket to their utopian vision, to their dystopian vision, to be honest with you, to where the government is in complete control in that nanny state. And let me be clear that the curriculum that your children are learning are coming from the progenitors of and the promulgators of that very ideology. They want to ensure that your children are comfortable with the ideals of socialism and Marxism and secularism, but are uncomfortable with the ideas of American exceptionalism and Christian thinking and worldview. So, folks, the whole goal that I want to expose from the beginning to the end of where we have come and where we are going with public education, that whole goal is to show you how right now in America's classrooms, there is a huge attack on America right now happening in those classrooms. We have ideological terrorists, and I do not use that term lightly, ideological terrorists controlling our classrooms. We have organizations like the Council of Great City Schools and the National School Board Association and the Broad organization whose idea is to ensure that school districts are managed by superintendents and principals who are thoroughly radicalized and are wholly answerable to those radicalized organizations. Those organizations, along with the Democrat Party, are ensuring, and labor unions are ensuring, that the schools are completely controlled by this leftist, radical, Marxist ideology and agenda. And folks, I do not say these things lightly. As an advocate for public education, and I am not an advocate for public schooling. And again, we will draw that dichotomy as we go through these short videos and these short lessons in our podcast. But folks, now's the time that we really fully understand what is happening, and we get ahead of this now, because it's getting to the point to where we almost can't turn this around. But I don't want to just leave you with these ideals. I don't want to just leave you with what has happened, but I want to leave you with what we can do today. There are ideas out there that we can ensure, that we can implement, that will take away the power from those leftist, radical, Marxist, socialist communists who are really trying to take over our schools. This ideology of secular humanism that is making the human being the center point, and whatever fits your will and whatever you want is what you should do and what you should get, and everyone else should kowtow to that. That sort of thing is trying to has made a foothold in our schools. But there are things we can do. There are things that we need to demand of our politicians, demand of our governors, and demand of our legislators, that they ensure that we take the legs out from under this diabolical scheme to demonize what has forever been the great hope of the West, the American ideals that we have that are rooted in Judeo-Christian values, our laws, our very being, our natural order, our moral order that is all rooted and grounded in what thus saith the word of God. That is what we have built this nation upon. That is what our public education was originally built upon. And that is what the left is out to destroy right now, and to ensure that the next generation does not even know what they are missing. Stick with me as we go through how the left destroyed public education and how they are intent on destroying your children. God bless you. We'll see you next time.